Similarly to how there are lots of Linux distributions, there are quite a few graphical shells to choose from, which come in desktop environments and window managers. It can be argued that picking the one you're comfortable with is important as it provides the actual interface you'll interact with daily. Out of complete desktop environments, I get that GNOME and KDE Plasma are two of the most popular ones, and these are the two I currently probably use, so I am steering more towards one of them. As a casual user, here are some of my thoughts on these desktops. Current latest releases will be shown, GNOME 47 and Plasma 6.2. Let's start with the overall design. GNOME looks modern, but also it's rather minimal and works a bit differently to what you might expect. There is only a top bar visible by default. All of the quick settings are grouped in one menu. On the other side, there are dots that take you to an important part of GNOME shell, the overview. More on that in a moment. Applications and menus have this modern look, as I said, with nice rounded corners and no separate title bar for native apps in recent versions. While there are a few colored buttons and such, the interface is pretty much just white and grey. Again, here's Ubuntu from 4 years ago as comparison. It's also pretty much just plain color. There's none of this transparency, blur, gradients. Okay, maybe the lock screen has some effects. If you come from more traditional desktops, the interface may seem kinda large. For example, the title bar and menus are pretty wide, like there is plenty of padding. I could dedicate an entire section of the video to just talking about the GNOME Overview, so here we go. It can be accessed by clicking the dots on the left hand panel, pushing the mouse against the corner of the screen, or by pressing the Meta or Windows key on your keyboard. All of them are not the easiest to figure out. The overview previews all running applications and workspaces. It has a dock below with pinned applications and a button to see a grid of all installed applications. The grid takes up almost the whole screen and has multiple pages when you have some more applications. The list is unordered, everything is there, you can drag the items around and even put them in folders as you'd like. The transition in and out of the overview feels really smooth. The dash is not accessible from the desktop by default, so it takes a few clicks to see the app menu. You are also not supposed to minimize the programs, but rather have them on different workspaces, for which the overview is meant to be used. That is also pretty different to traditional interfaces and is likely confusing. From the app grid you can drag apps to the desired workspace as many times as needed. Also, say that you have some full screen app, such as a game, running and quickly need to check or do something. By pressing the Windows key, aka Meta, it nicely zooms out to the overview where you can see everything. On other desktops, what usually happens is that the app still gets in the way or just kinda nopes out of view. On GNOME, going out of the full screen program is certainly the smoothest I've seen. So the overview has some quirks, mainly about running programs, but it is fascinating. KDE has a more traditional layout with possibly desktop icons and a panel on the bottom. The panel has a tray on the right and the applications and a launcher on the left, just like Windows. There is an overview similar to GNOME's in Plasma 6. By default it can be accessed by pushing the mouse to the top left corner of the screen. There are rounded corners in places, but are really small, giving the interface a more blocky look or something. There is a bit of this blurred transparent effect in places by default. There are more colors though. There are color schemes to choose from and the layout can be changed, but I'll get to the customization. So for the design and layout, it's subjective and neither is significantly ahead of the other. GNOME shines through with a more modern feel, while KDE is more colorful and has an easier to use desktop. As full desktop environments, both have a suite of applications built for them. Both do the work and are filled with necessary software. KDE probably has somewhat more functionality available, but I feel like I could find my way around the GNOME ecosystem a bit better. It seems more consistent and polished. While GNOME apps are maybe a little more inviting for me, both are certainly usable and well stocked, and my recommendation would be to just use what your desktop provides or what fits with it. Some known programs for each site that's not really another. GNOME Boxes is used for easily running and managing virtual machines. From KDE there is KDE Live for video editing, Krita for digital art, and Kate, that is a text editor but also useful for development. When it comes to customization, there's no question, KDE Plasma is just miles ahead. Let's start with GNOME though. It is pretty minimal. They're really pushing their own workflow forward, and that's how it's supposed to be. The appearance settings just have a wallpaper selection and a dark mode switch. Only in the latest release was a selection of accent colors added, but this doesn't change all that much either. Some wallpapers are pretty nice though. For further customization, separate tools are needed. There is tweaks for some desktop tweaks, like loading other themes or enabling minimize and maximize buttons. To change more, you may have to add extensions, either through a dedicated app or the website. Some of my recommendations. Dash to Dock brings the application menu from the overview to the desktop for quicker access. If you want the apps and system stuff on a single panel, you can take Dash to Panel instead, though I prefer just the dock. Blur My Shell is simply for elegance. It applies transparency and blur on the overview, top bar and probably the dash. There's App Indicator and Case Status Notifier Item support. Strange name, but it has system trait support for programs. Yeah, this is not a thing in GNOME without an extension. There is Ding for desktop icons, but I think I've gotten over those entries on Linux. You can check the systems for extensions in the manager to configure them. Well yeah, GNOME can be customized with extensions, but they are third party and not really officially supported. Having to rely on additional extensions that might not feel very native on the desktop and may break isn't very great. On KDE Plasma, where do I start? From the desktop you can go to edit mode and change all about the panel layout. You can create more panels, remove them, move it to different edges of the screen, change the width and length, have it hover slightly above. The stuff on the panel is made out of widgets. Sure enough, you can move the widgets around, add some space between them, add and remove widgets. There's a wide selection of widgets that can be put on either a panel or on the desktop. One of them is Global App Menu that moves the program menu options out of the window and onto the panel, so you can create the panel layout that you want. While it seems a bit common to replicate the Mac kind of layout with the app menu bar and the dock for programs, what I have done lately is set the default panel, move the programs to the center and add another panel for the global menu. System settings has a lot more in it. The appearance menu starts off with color schemes and accent colors. Plenty of things can be changed separately here. Along with icons and cursors, which is to be expected, you can change the style of panels and menus, application style and window borders. For the last two, you can also slightly customize the entries. Some options here that are not the easiest to find but are cool. On Breeze app theme, go to the last tab of the settings and move the slider. This puts that glass effect on context menus. The slider determines how transparent it is. On window border page, there are some additional settings at the top right. There is configure title bar buttons where you can arrange the buttons of the window title bar. Interesting buttons include app menu, which also moves the menu bar away, and shade, which is like half minimize. Window contents are hidden, leaving just the title bar. I had some trouble getting it to work though. By clicking Get New, KDE makes it really easy to install additional themes made by other users. It is relatively easy to edit and add color schemes and maybe add icons, so some distros have added their own theme. OpenSUSE, Manjaro and Garuda come to mind, though I haven't tried the last one. Another place to take a look is Window Management, Desktop Effects. Here you can find multiple desktop effects, such as fades, blur, cube, wobbly windows, close effects. This is a bit more advanced, but from the same settings category you can set specific window properties and create scripts for the interface. I don't have the time to check and show every setting here, but I guess we all knew Plasma would win the customization part by a landslide. Now a bit about stability and performance. Both are rather on the heavier side of Linux desktops, so there shouldn't be a major difference in resource usage, but they also aren't like the fastest. I've run into some small glitches on KDE Plasma. Hasn't really happened on GNOME as much, though I had it completely freeze a few times. So from my experience, GNOME doesn't break often, but in the rather unlikely event that it does, it brings everything down with it. Though I had freezes in Plasma as well. The stability of the desktop probably has to do with the design philosophy. KDE is really modular and elaborate, and all this is cramped into the desktop. GNOME on the other hand doesn't allow that much customization. It is their way, take it or leave it, and so the environment is simpler and they can focus on polishing it. There may be moments when some feature isn't really on GNOME or something that doesn't quite work on KDE. I think there was this one time when I tried to set up some Java runner and I got it to appear on KDE but not GNOME. KDE apparently has had better support for HDR displays. An example from the other side. I think KDE has trouble reading physical disks. GNOME detects it just fine and offers to run the contents, whether it is an install script like in VirtualBox or playable media. But who uses physical media nowadays? Also, when you have both desktops installed, some interesting things happen. First off, the launchers are filled with apps from both ecosystems. Switching between them, I end up with GNOME interface with KDE icons, which looks a little weird. When you use GNOME with KDE login screen, then the lock screen simply doesn't work. On KDE with GNOME login screen, I had some non-KDE apps not open on Wayland. So my take is that GNOME is more stable and reliable, and if you want something that just works, you should rather take a look at that, but it doesn't have as much features as KDE. GNOME and KDE Plasma are rightfully the two most popular desktop environments for Linux, and these are my main options too. GNOME has a modern look, it seems smoother and more consistent, but the workflow takes a bit to get used to. It is supported by plenty of user-friendly distros. KDE goes all in on different features and customization. I tend to be a bit more on the KDE side because I think the interface suits me better and I appreciate some basic customization. About the aesthetics, both GNOME and Plasma have their good sides. As popular ones, the communities have their rivalry, but it's nice to see some mutual support between them. So that was my look at the most popular Linux graphical shells. I guess that's it for now. Perhaps you can like and subscribe for more computer related videos, and see ya.